Welcome to this week's Bible Topics discussion. We're glad you're with us today as we discuss persecution for standing up for Jesus.
There are several verses in the Bible where Jesus addresses this. Matthew chapter 24 verse 9 says, "Then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name." Another one is Luke chapter 21 verse 12, which says, "But before all these things they will lay their hands on you and will persecute you, delivering you to the synagogues and prisons, bringing you before kings and governors for my name's sake."
And here is another verse. John chapter 15 verse 20 says, "Remember the word that I said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also." And one more verse. John chapter 16 verse 2 says, "They will make you outcast from the synagogues, but an hour is coming for everyone who kills you to think that he is offering service to God."
These verses are clear warning from Jesus to his disciples and to us that the world doesn't like what Christians believe and is not going to treat us favorably, especially as the end draws near. There's a story in John chapter 9 verses 22 through 34 that relates to this. It's a little long to read here, so you can read it for yourself, but basically what it says is that Jesus had healed a man born blind, and he had done it on a Sabbath. The Pharisees didn't like that. They considered that work, and the Jews had rules against working on the Sabbath. So they questioned the man, and he told them how Jesus had made clay and put it on him, and his sight came to him. They decided to call his parents and question them about it. His parents said, "Ask him, he's of age." They were afraid because the Jews had already decided that if anyone confessed Jesus as the Christ, they'd be put out of the synagogue. So they went back to the man whom Jesus had healed and questioned him more about what Jesus had done. He said, "Why do you want to hear it again? I've already told you once." He said in verses 32 and 33, "Since the beginning of time it has never been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." They said, "You're teaching us," so they put him out.
If you watch the news much, you've seen this persecution already. Think about all the news stories that talk about kids at school being persecuted for wearing Christian clothing. And one really bad one was at Columbine school shooting in 1999, when we were told that the shooter asked Rachel Scott if she believed in God. She said yes, and he shot her. Then there were many stories of Christian missionaries that had been killed for their faith. Of course, some of the starkest stories come from the apostles, how they were treated, how they died. Paul tells us of prison and stonings and beatings and being left for dead. In Acts 7, we're told of the first Christian martyr, Stephen, who was one of the first deacons. He preached Jesus, and they stoned him to death. One thing that stands out to me in that story is that at the end, he asked God not to hold it against them. This is true Christian love.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for your comments. Please continue to comment, like, and share, and let us know if you have any questions. We'd love to hear from you.
See you next week. Be blessed.